We're Malin and Johan, a Swedish couple that have been sailing full-time since 2016. After 3.5 years of sailing, we welcomed our daughter Vera on board. In 2022, we moved in to Sunhill Farm and started building our next boat from scratch. We're a bit over a year into the build now, and we are doing the last jobs on the hull before it's time to turn it over.
It will be like a square wheel where the whole hull sits in the middle of that.
After many weeks of fairing and sanding the hull, we have started painting the hull with a barrier coat. Now it's only the keel pocket left.
Yeah, it's been quite a lot of work getting this keel pocket ready. 3 rounds of fairing and lots of sanding. But now I think we have a fair curve and a flat line in this direction all along the whole floor of the keel pocket. So I have just used the vacuum up here, vacuum cleaner, to get rid of the dust and wiped it down with some tack cloth. So next step will be some alcohol, wipe it down with that, and then it's time for the barrier coat. And yeah, obviously this is a really important part of the boat, that this keel pocket, that the floor here has the correct curve to it, and no bumps and no dips, because this is the mounting area for the keel, so obviously it's really important that it has the correct shape. I also been thinking a little bit about how we're going to produce that template and if we're going to use vacuum or not. And of course the benefit of using vacuum is that it's a quite easy way to push down on the laminate, the sandwich laminate that I'm going to produce here, to get it pushed down against the surface here, so we're really following the curve of the hull. The downside of using vacuum is that this floor is not as thick as the hull. So there's a slight chance that when you're introducing that vacuum, that you will deform the floor in the keel pocket just a little bit during that curing process. And then when you release the vacuum, the floor might go back to its original position like it is now, and the template will have a different form than the actual floor has here, and that would be a real problem. So that's why I'm thinking that we shouldn't use vacuum here. We will use weights instead, just to be on the safe side, because here it's not the laminate in that sandwich which is important. It's just that we are following the curve of the floor. For those of you who haven't watched our videos for a long time, the plan is that once the hull is flipped over, we're going to add to this laminate from the inside and build up a really thick, solid glass base for the keel from the inside, where the keel bolts will go through. It will only be solid laminate, no cedar as core in this area.
The whole family went to the hardware store to buy materials for the upcoming projects.
So I think that's all we need of the plywood that we need for the cradles and also for the tracks that we're going to have on the ground.
We got 13 sheets of plywood in different thickness.
So today I will start working on the keel template, or the template for the keel plate. And I have decided to use simple styrofoam, 10mm thick sheets like this, but in 2 layers. So I will have 3 layers of fiberglass at the top, and 1 layer down the middle in between these, and then 1 layer at the bottom. And the reason I'm using 2 layers of core with fiberglass in the middle is just that hopefully this will give less spring back once I release it from the hull. Because it's really important that it stays in that shape to the hull, because that's the whole meaning of this template, to have something to give to the mechanical shops. I could of course also have made this from plywood, but that piece is pretty long. It's almost 5 meters long and half a meter wide. So this will make it so much lighter and easier to move around. Another benefit of having 2 layers in the core is that I can shift where the joints sit, so I don't have one joint going all the way through the core. So I need to cut these 1/2 meter wide, and then up front in the keel pocket it gets a bit more narrow. So I have to make a couple of pieces for that as well.
I'm preparing to plant some raspberries, 3 different types that will give berries from June until October. Now I'm gonna put some compost in the bottom here and mix that with the soil that we have here. Vad gör du, Vera?
Jag ska visa pappa alla maskar. Jag är maskad. Mask M2-lia.
Vad är maskarna bra för?
För solen.
Ja.
I will put down some support poles in the ground with lines attached, for the plants as they get bigger. After the third layer of fiberglass, Johan placed out the lead weights.
So the keel pocket is laminated, and now I'm only hoping that this release wax that I've used will work the way it should, so there won't be any problems tomorrow when I'm popping that template out of the keel pocket. Because if that doesn't work, that can be a major problem. So it's time to start building the cradle boxes for the hull. And there will be one box just in front of the keel pocket and one just aft of the keel pocket. And I will start by cutting the shape of the hull in 21mm plywood. I have 4 cutting files, one for each section cut of the hull. There's 4 different positions. So I'll use the Shaper Origin to make these cuts, and I have imported those 4 cutting files into the machine. And hopefully the surface here of the plywood is coplanar enough so I can get an accurate cut. Because this works with this tape, for those of you who haven't seen this machine before, and it kind of triangulates its position on this surface to know where to cut according to that cutting file. So first I need to apply this tape over the surface here, and then scan the cutting area or the working area. And then I will, on the screen here, like augmented reality, I will place that cutting file on top of the plywood here. And then, yeah, you just guide the machine according to that cutting file, but the machine will do the fine job. My job will just be to push the machine along a pretty wide line on the screen here. These are the lead weights that we bought that we will later on use for the keel. They're pretty heavy. I think one of these is maybe 300 grams or so, maybe a bit more. So it gets heavy quickly. I managed to get it off. It was a lot more difficult than I thought. I was actually quite worried there for a while. Fortunately, I managed to damage it a little bit at the edge up there in the front, but I'm thinking I can fix that. But it's not as rigid as I thought it should be. And that part of that is that the epoxy is not 100% cured yet. It's been pretty cold last night, so I'm thinking I need to let it sit there for maybe until tomorrow, and it will be a little bit stiffer by then. But either way, it's not stiff enough to, on its own, represent the curve of the keel pocket. I can't trust that. So I'm thinking, in addition to this, I will take a piece of plywood on its end like this, from edge to edge, on top of the edges. And then I will use a pencil on top of a block inside the keel pocket and draw a line all the way across, and that will represent the curve of the floor in the keel pocket. And then I can cut that plywood so we get an exact representation of the curve, and then I can glue that on top of this keel plate template, and that will be a lot more rigid since it's standing on its end like this. Or I can decide to use it on its own. But for the size and the shape and everything of the keel plate, this is good to have. The reason I'm putting in so much effort in this is that it's so important that we get this right, because you can just imagine if we get something wrong with a 20 millimeter thick steel plate that weighs a bit over 400 kilos, that's not something that is easy to fix afterwards, and especially not once the keel is welded to that keel plate. That can be a really costly mistake, and that's why that this template is so important, and that it's a good representation of how the keel pocket looks in reality, so we get a good connection later on once it's time to put the keel onto the hull. So I'm thinking I will let it sit there for the rest of the day to let it cure fully, and so that it's keeping its shape. And I will continue working on the cradle boxes today.
Slipa.
Vet du hur man gör då?
Ja.
Man slipar så på kanterna. Man tar här och här. Ska du slipa på denna? Jag ska slipa där.
Bra.
På samma ställe.
Thank you for watching, and to everyone who contributes to our production. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and check out our merch store on ronsailingstore.com. See you next week.